Good morning, everybody. This is Jack Gleason with Startuptrading.com. It's 9 o'clock in New York, May 27th, 2020. For economic reports, yesterday we had, after the bell, Bank of Canada Governor Polas speaking, New Zealand dollar news, and then construction work out of the Australian dollar. In the overnight session, we had a speech from ECB President Lagarde. At 4 a.m., we had the Credit Suisse economic expectations for the Swiss. At 10 a.m., this is going to be the first thing once the market opens. We're going to have the Richmond Manufacturing Index, 2 p.m. Beige Book, and then at 9 p.m., we're going to have the ANZ Business Conference on the New Zealand dollar and private capital expender for the Australian markets. Tomorrow, for our big news event, and really the biggest one of the week here, for the U.S. markets, we're going to have the preliminary GDP expected to come in minus 4.8%. Core durable goods orders, and unemployment claims. That's all going to be an hour before the bell tomorrow. So those are pretty significant news events that we need to be aware of. Let's go ahead and take a look here at the S&P 500. Backing out to this higher time frame on the daily chart, we've been inside of this extension long, which goes back to the high of March 27th. That has been consolidating since the beginning of May. We've been inside of this long setup all month, and we're going to be moving into the completion here very soon. Possibly today, maybe tomorrow. We also have that GDP report. So it's always interesting when we have, economic reports coming out at around the same time as we're going to be completing profit targets, because that gives the market an opportunity to begin selling off from a profit target, from a technical standpoint. Now, that profit target is right above us here at 30.43. Yesterday, what we ended up running into was the 50% retracement long for the week. The 50% retracement long for the week, a 29.47 half to high. Okay, that's the Sunday night open to the Tuesday high. That 50% retracement was 29.83 half. That gives us an upside target of 30.3675. Now, since we've come out of the lows of yesterday, you have to go to this smaller time frame. You can go to like a tick chart or a 5-minute chart, but we began an extension. Actually, I'll go to a 5-minute chart. It's even hard to observe here on a tick chart. We began this extension that has held multiple times to our profit target. We had a 50% retracement to profit target, and then we just had our next measured move. This was also a 50% retracement, and then we started going straight up, and we began an extension from that high, which is 29.8975. We traded it once to target. We traded it twice to target. Same anchor new highs just run into its 38% retracement at 30.1775. So going into this morning, I'm looking at two support levels, 30.1775 and 30.12 for the continuation of this current uptrend. Moving on to the Dow, which is just soaring up another 300 points here this morning. Pretty incredible. The Dow has completed what was the extension we were consolidating in last week. We traded it on Tuesday at the close and Friday at the open. We rallied through profit targets and began a Tuesday's high-to-high extension. That Tuesday's high-to-high extension has gone up into its negative 61.8% profit target in the overnight session. You can make the argument that we have an extension to extension here that's super aggressive, but we could still fall back down into that higher time frame move. But right now, going into the morning, we are in a 25,127 extension anchor with a bullish above line in the sand on that move, a 25,229. But the Dow, just super strong market, continues to go straight up here. And then moving on to the Nasdaq, which is on the other side of the fence. The Nasdaq is the most bearish market. It's really unable to hold its gains. We were unable to get above the 50% retracement short from highs. So Tuesday's high to low has been sold into here. So if there's a market you want to play to the downside, if we do start breaking down during the day, I think the Nasdaq's the market to look at. We continue to see weakness in the Nasdaq relative to the S&P, relative to the Dow, relative to the Russell. So that Nasdaq, technically, if we stay below this 95.15, we're going to have downside targets, through this negative 23% profit target. And there's the possibility that we would fall all the way into the halfway back long from May 14th to high before we really found support. And that would be all the way down at like 92, right? That would be right down at that negative 61. So there's absolutely a possibility on a breakdown of getting down to this 92.30 zone. So I'm going to just put a box around that. And then I'm going to go over the Russell just because it's just the Russell's finally really playing catch up here. We have just busted through, and this is the last market to do it, I believe, unless the Dow, I think the Dow has not done it. We have just busted through the full 61.8 of the short. Just squeezed. Now, we were last to trade the 50 in the Russell, and then we had a second test, and then we had a third test. We went sideways on the third test going into Memorial Day weekend, and we've gone straight up over the last 2 days on this breakout. The current extension in the Russell that traded is drawn from last Wednesday's high, May 20th to high. Now, this traded at the close along with our other indexes that had their support levels. I'll look for the same anchor new high sequence here from that Wednesday's high to high, and that gives us a 50% retracement at 1397.3, and the 38's 1407. But those are your two potential pullbacks there for the Russell. Moving on to oil, which has run back up into the highs of last week and just kind of stalled here. We had a pretty significant rally out of Friday. Now, there was some Chinese news that came out Friday, which sent oil just spiraling lower. Total liquidation break. $34 traded all the way down under 31. It was a $3 break in 3 hours. And then we just began going right back up to highs. It's like trying to put a beach ball underwater. It's just not going to happen. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for this full 50% retracement from Friday's low to the most recent high on Tuesday. That gives us a support zone here at 32.77. 32.77. For the USD JPY, starting to move into our currencies, and I went over this yesterday, but every time we ran into the 107.41, we began to rally away from those levels. So we ran into them last Wednesday. We started a halfway back sequence and, ran up to the top of the range. And Friday, we had the same thing, halfway back sequence. We ran up to the top of the range. Okay? And then here today, same thing. We trade back to the bottom, hold a halfway back through the top of the range. Now, what we're noticing here is this is actually the highest the USD JPY has rallied from this level. It is, taking out those previous highs here. So I'm going to be looking at this extension from a 107.61 too high. 107.61 too high as a potential entry into the trend. Moving on to the Aussie dollar. Last night we had this extension. It was front run. We made new highs. We just retested and broke that level. The full 50% retracement in the Aussie dollar that brings us back into our pullback is drawn from the lows of Friday to the high of Wednesday, and that 50% retracement is a 65.92. 65.92, and that is about 13 pips away from trading. Moving on to the euro, backing out here, we have this full 50% retracement that has held just on that higher time frame, and you can go back and use this low as well. We have held that full 50% retracement. We broke out of the short setup yesterday. Okay, we broke out of the short setup yesterday. It was actually kind of interesting because yesterday we were inside of this extension from a 109.14 to high. Now that traded completed profit targets in our same anchor new high was trading up until this morning, which that reaction, I think there was something about them buying bonds, Perry said. It actually wasn't scheduled. I know Christine Lagarde spoke this morning, but anyway, we ended up piercing that extension, and then when we made the new high, so far this low has come back and hold it. When we broke that extension, it was like very fast, and then we just ripped higher, and then this extension has re-engaged, and there's buyers back on that level again. But we did hold that 50% retracement to target. Right now, I'm just going to use the 109.14 bullish above 109.58. Bullish above 109.58 in the euro. And here we are right at the next measured move for the Great Britain pound. We are right at it. It's a daily halfway back. It's the swing low of Friday to high. The level is at 122.61. We're trading 122.70s. We just traded that level not too long ago. If we stay above the 122.37s, our upside targets are 124.10. But this is a daily traditional measured move here for the pound. Moving on to the USD CAD, we are in a very aggressive sell sequence. Yesterday we had Governor Polaz speaking at the end of the day. We completed this extension short at a 137.30s. After we complete an extension short, we just take that same anchor, we draw it to the new low, looking for the new entry. And that 38% retracement is just traded. The two resistance levels are 137.80 and 137.96. And there is a USD CAD number tomorrow, or actually Friday. Friday there's a big USD CAD GDP report. Moving on to gold and silver. Gold's futures contracts have rolled. They are the GCQ20, and we are bearish. We are very bearish. Both of our leg starts are short here in gold. Since the roll, this first 50% retracement has held to its profit target. That next move from 1721 to low is what I'm looking at, and that's up at 1711.8 to be exact. The downside anticipated, I would not expect really gold to have any support until we retest 1682. Often when you do get a futures roll, you retest higher time frame supports before that market moves higher. But if we don't hold that 1682 support, we very well could be heading significantly lower. But I would expect it to at least come halfway back from the lows of the previous contract, which I believe was a June contract. But the low was April 1st, and the 50% retracement from that April 1st is at 1682, and that's currently where our higher time frame short does target. So I do not expect any support until 1682. Gold really looking to just roll over here, and on the back of that, excuse me, silver has retested right here, right now, actually, as I'm speaking. It's at this point in time, you definitely would want to see some confirmation in silver. We are at a higher time frame support level, okay? But this is, we're in multiple tests here. It's the high from 1637 to high. It's a daily extension. We have bounced off of this level multiple times. Okay, if you go down to the smaller time frame, it's just so you're not buying a fallen knife. If we can break above the 61.8 for the day, that'll reconfirm the support. So break above this level here at 1752 area and then look for a pullback. Otherwise, this is just a bottom of the range trade. This is held last Monday. It has held Friday. It held Thursday. So this level has not broken. It is some pretty significant support. It's just a matter of, is gold going to drag silver down with it? But definitely pay some close attention to that as well. And I have a VIX downside target of 28.25s, which I'm hoping will line up with when the ES completes the 30.43. So at some point this week, maybe it's today, maybe it's tomorrow or Friday, but the VIX I'd like to see complete 28.25s. In the ES, I'd like to see complete 30.43s. If we get that to happen at the same time, I do believe we're going to start seeing some selling pressure in the market again, but not until those targets are complete. Anyways, that's going to wrap up my morning video. If you enjoyed this content, please give this video a thumbs up. If you're interested in joining my trade room, there is a link below. I'm doing these videos public about once a week just to show you guys an insight into the technical analysis that I use. I will share my levels with everybody who is a member of my room and then go live in this on the open. Everybody take care, have a wonderful day, trade safe, and make sure to like the video.